Video gaming has grown into something more than just a hobby since its inception in the 80s, and it's become a common form of entertainment, drawing more and more people in who seek a good time or a challenge. And yet the pursuit of challenge has also evolved, to the point that simply overcoming a challenge is not enough for some players. These players seek to be the best, and their motivation to play video games shifts from having a good time to lording their superiority over other players. As a result, the gaming industry is slowly being defaced by players gravitating towards elitist behavior. To define this behavior, knowing the origins and meanings of terms such as elitism, MLG, and the title phrase "get good" helps shed a little more light onto why video gamers are becoming increasingly antagonistic. Elitism is defined as being the behavior of a person who regards themselves as belonging to an elite, and this definition segues directly into the concept of MLG. Major League Gaming is a professional gaming circuit that was founded in America in 2002. MLG regularly hosts tournaments for highly competitive shooter games such as the Battlefield and Call of Duty series, as well as fighting games like Super Smash Bros. And Mortal Kombat. The champions of these tournaments are widely regarded as the absolute best players of their respective games, and constitute the true elite of video gamers. In their case, superiority is a self-explanatory term. These MLG champions are of the highest caliber, and they have no reason to brag. However, while this is the definition of MLG, the abbreviated term has come to connote an aggressive form of elitism, where gamers will acquire an overinflated ego and stoop so low as to demean and patronize newer players, shrugging them off as newbies or casuals. Sadly, while newbie defines someone who is inexperienced, elitist gamers imply that they're not only unskilled, but incapable of ever becoming skilled. Of course, I'm not saying all gamers are jerks, but just being subject to one or two of these kinds of people can ruin your play experience. This problem is compounded by the fact that today it is very difficult to find a game that doesn't involve these elitists, especially in the case of first-person shooters like Call of Duty and massively multiplayer online games like World of Warcraft. Sadly, the phrase "get good" is very common in games like these. The term is an intentional misspelling of "get good", and it is fabricated to heckle and aggravate other players to the point of rage. Mainstream use of this statement originates from the Souls trilogy, a three-part series of games released by From Software for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and later for the PC. Widely recognized as being the hardest game ever, Dark Souls, the second installment, released in 2010, constantly presents life-or-death situations to the player, where even slight miscalculation can be one's own undoing. As such, it would make sense that such a teeth-grindingly difficult game is the birthplace of gaming's most scummy players, as well as its most annoying mannerism. Dark Souls isn't the only example of a gaming community gone wrong, however, as an innumerable quantity of examples exist. But a trend occurs in video games with large player bases, where the elitist gamers are appearing more and more in popular titles. As previously stated, Call of Duty and World of Warcraft would first come to mind, as both franchises have a gigantic following. However, entire genres of gaming seem to suffer under this plague, most noticeably the MMO genre that Warcraft is identified with. In my case, MMOs tend to be my most favorite game genre due to their broad scope, but where in years past I spent 2 or 3 years playing the same game, I now spend less and less time on each one, and the more recent the game, the more spiteful I am towards it. I notice that it's not exactly that the game got old, as there's always things to do in MMOs, but that the people playing the game around the time I left were true assholes. They were unwilling to allow other players to enjoy themselves in a game they thought to be theirs and theirs alone. As of the past couple of months, I've dived into the Call of Duty experience, only to be disgusted by other players wearing headsets, spewing profanity, and talking everyone down around them. I play games to connect to other people, so online games are my favorite medium, but after constant bombardment by these miserly elitists, I get the feeling that shooters and MMOs just are not worth playing at this point. And as I've spent my free time here at Georgia Tech trying to find a new game to play, thoughts have popped up in my head. Why are video gamers such jerks? Why can't a game be about having fun and sharing it with others? Why does a video game have to revolve around constantly reminding everyone around you just how much better you are than them? It saddens me. It really does sadden me to throw an enjoyable game aside just because its community is full of jerks, but after reading a plethora of online articles, I've found that it's not necessarily the games that create the spite, but the anonymity granted by the online experience. In a growing virtual world where people can hide behind usernames and pictures and project their hate onto everyone around, it would make sense that this phenomenon also extends to video gaming. Modern-day gaming is tightly connected to the internet and must also bear the problem faced by online integrity. Like with online forums and other account-driven services, spiteful people can hide behind usernames like a security blanket. After all, there's no real-world consequence to tell another person online that they are worthless and not worthy of being called a person, right? It's those conceptions that drive gamers to be jerks. They exhibit deplorable behavior because there are no consequences they could face in doing so. The number of gamers who display these behaviors exists mostly due to the integration of games and the internet. Ruining the fun for everyone else becomes what these kind of gamers enjoy, and that thought alone is sickening. If you remember the games I displayed in the first slide, like Pac-Man, Mario, and Pokemon, think of the people you may have asked about who played these games, and how happy they seem when they recollect memories of playing them. Back in the early days of video gaming, when the internet wasn't a factor, having fun was, for the most part, the only reason people would play. And it wasn't until you saw the internet connection being made that you see all these hyper-competitive players all over the place. Even games designed like Mortal Kombat and Super Smash Bros. For competition, they were little more than party games, and even they made everybody bubbly and cheerful. This desire to have fun and share it should be the focus of any game. A game should not be defined by winning it, but rather by how you have a good time playing it, whether it be alone or with a friend or two or three or more. This is how I feel that the gaming industry is being defaced. The hyper-competition and the elitism. And whether you're victimized by the elitist players or not, modern games seem to focus less upon enjoyment and more upon competition. Few games these days, save for the descendants of the original Marios and Zeldas, can capture the essence of playing for fun and not for trophies or achievements, or for a leaderboard. The competitiveness of the professional gamers such as the MLG tournament champions, as well as the elitist gamers themselves, is becoming increasingly reflected onto the gaming industry today. These factors are what contribute to the devaluing of the video gaming experience. Thank you.